Well, good morning and welcome to yet another IAVM Venue Solutions Group partnership in terms of providing information for our industry. Going to kick it over to our fearless leader, Russ Simons, who will get us started on today's session.
Hey, thank you, Richard, and good morning to everybody. And thank you so much for giving us a brief moment of your time today. This is a part of our continuing commitment to the industry in cooperation with IAVM, part of our Back to Work series. As we start to get information from people, we're looking for topics and subjects that we can focus on and try to provide information to the industry going forward. And so if any of you have suggestions for that going forward, I think most of you know how to get in touch with Richard or myself. We're really interested in providing service to the industry and sharing information that will make us all better. With that, Richard, I'm going to kick it back to you, and let's hear from these this fine group of panelists.
Great, thanks, Russ. And we're gonna first start off just by again thanking the four of you for joining us today. And as most of you would already know, seeing the people on the screen, we're grateful to have Dean Dennis and Ebony Haddix, Kiana Kim, and Steve McKenzie. I'm going to ask them to just self-introduce in a second and just kind of tell us what they're up to and where they are. So those that may not know will have a little more understanding, and then we'll jump right in. We've got a series of questions that we've put together. Much have come from many of you that are attending today. And then, as we always do, after about 45 minutes, we will go to your questions and we'll stay on as long as it takes to answer them all. This has been a great process for us going back to the very beginning, a little over a year ago when we started these, and Russ will facilitate that. So if you don't hear your question answered during the first 45 minutes, you'll get a chance to go in on the question and just do that at any point when you have a question. Just type it in and we're monitoring those and we'll get to them. So Kiana, let's start with you if you wouldn't mind. Let's just self-introduce and then we'll jump into our questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard. Hi, everyone. My name is Kiana Kim. I am the Director of Production and Event Services at the Charleston Gilliard Center in Charleston, South Carolina. We have an 1,800-seat performance hall as well as a 13,000 square feet exhibition hall. I primarily oversee front of house operations, guest experience, rental contracting, and security. Currently at our venue, we are fully reopened here in Charleston.
That's a great feeling. Yeah, a lot of us would wish we could say that. Dean?
Right. Hi, Dean Dennis. I'm the Senior Vice President and General Manager of the Renaissance Convention Center and the Cannon Center for the Performing Arts, a 2,100-seat theater here in Memphis. And glad to be joining you all today, and thanks for the invite.
Yeah, thanks for being with us. Steve, go ahead.
Hit the unmute button first. Hi, everybody. Steve McKenzie. I'm the Executive Vice President of Ungabok. As some of you may have heard or may not have heard, in the last few weeks, event booking, where I was formerly the president, has officially merged with Ungabok software. So we're now a new company under the brand of Ungabok, and excited to be here talking about booking and scheduling technology.
Yeah, and Steve, before we have Ebony self-introduce, I want to say thank you as well for joining. Steve's been an active facilitator at both the Australian and the U.S. Venue Management Association schools for years, and has dedicated himself to education for all of us. And while he's obviously a peddler like many of us, his real heart is about making a difference, as all four of our panelists are, but really grateful. And he gives us a Kiwi representation, and we're glad to have that. As we often tell our friends in Australia, the only thing separating Australia from winning the World Cup is the Tasman Sea. And for those on the inside, they'll get that joke. Ebony, go ahead.
Right.
I'm Ebony Haddix. I'm the Senior Manager of Box Office Operations for the Memphis Grizzlies here at the FedEx Forum, an 18,000-seat arena. And I'm just happy to be with all of you today.
Great. Thanks, Ebony. So let's jump right to it. So the last 18 months have been like probably none any of us have ever experienced or ever even dreamed of experiencing. And as Dean and I were chatting, in fact, Dean collectively was chatting with us earlier, like most of us couldn't spell Zoom when this started, and we're better because of it, but we probably wouldn't have chosen in any way how we've had to learn and adapt. And so with that said, over the last 18 months, all four of you had to navigate and adapt to many different things. What technological changes have you needed to adapt or address within the scheduling, booking, inventory, and ticketing operations? And Dean, we'll start with you, and we'll just kind of move these around.
Great. I thank you for letting me be the first. I have a little show and tell to start with, Richard. A little something. We just are finishing a $200 million renovation of our building. And many of you may even have actually used one of these. When I was digging around in the archives, I found the book, literally the book. You can see how big it is. And this thing was down in the dungeons of the building. And you can kind of see, hopefully you can kind of see, that it has morning, afternoon, and night. It has the room on the side here. And so you go in, you put the contact in, you put the person in, whatever. And this literally is like 2, maybe 3 inches thick. And this was the book, and everybody used this, right? This is dated 1983. So, I mean, that's getting to be a long time ago, but it's not that long ago. And during this time, and I was thinking about this presentation, I'm thinking, good Lord, could you imagine trying to use this book during the pandemic? And every time you had to move, like we moved Teresa Caputo, I think 4 or 5 times, right? She was scheduled for February of 20. I couldn't imagine going back into this book each time and scratching it out and white, using white paper to get rid of that. And we kept thinking Teresa would actually give us a prediction of when she could actually appear. But we moved a lot of stuff around, and yeah, it was a lot of extra work to get that done. So technology, and during the renovation, let me say this too: we had power outages and computer outages, internet outages, and we realized how important it was every day to have that technology to use. So we just recently went to Steve's venue ops program, and it's been a godsend for us during that time. We're just getting up and operational with it, but our ability to move stuff around, I wanted to get the number of how many times we actually moved events and canceled events in 2020. And I'm sure Kiana and Ebony can talk to that as well. It was pretty nerve-wracking, but fortunately, technology allowed us to make those changes really quick. I can get into more of that as we move along, but that's my opening piece anyway, Richard.
Sure, great, that's amazing. So Kiana, go ahead. Technology been your friend? And if so, like what are some of the maybe specific things you've tried to get your hands around?
Yeah, well, just like Dean, we also went from event booking to venue ops during the pandemic, and don't know what we would have done without venue ops. It's really just been an excellent tool just to update things in real time. Also, with technology, we've really relied on technology to fill in the gaps of labor that I'm sure we're all experiencing, with just reopening and just the shortages. So, using technology to empower our patron base to, fill in some of these roles that normally a front of house person would, using technology to, communicate our updated COVID policies, through digital signage and pre-show announcements, and really just keeping in touch, with those who we've lost touch with this past year, both patrons and staff.
Great. Ebony?
So in the fun world of ticketing, I will say congratulations to those who are reopened, who have reopened, and those who are walking along the paths of getting back in the swing of things. But definitely in the ticketing world, from the event booking, from things moving from this date to this date, maybe, to the new date, possibly, to social distancing seating for the things that you could host. It has been a big challenge, but one that I can say we definitely in our industry have some unsung heroes for having to move things in off. And I'm not a big fan of this word, but pivot, but that is what we've had to do so much during this trying time of what I call the great pause. So technology has been a godsend, as well as the people who were willing to get in and keep doing their jobs during this time. So technology has been fantastic.
Great. I have to just add a comment, Ebony. It's funny that somebody whose major tenant is an NBA team is not a fan of the word pivot, but that's That's good. So Steve, you know, and I do want to make sure all of our attendees recognize, we never, and Russ and I have really been clear about this, we never promote anybody's specific products. Obviously, we know Steve and his team at Ungerbach now are terrific, and there's a number of great vendors out there. Steve is an industry expert, and as I started out in the introduction earlier, he's a topic expert, and he's been the most committed IAVM and industry giver I think I could identify. So he's here because of his expertise and his heart. And none of us, certainly Russ or I, are advocating for any particular vendor or service, including ourselves. There's lots of great people out there that do what we do as well. So Steve, go ahead.
Thanks, Richard. And yeah, totally. I love being able to help with the education of the industry any which way I can. So as the only non-venue person on this call, I'm just really pleased that as a technology supplier, that, you know, we're able to assist with the craziness that was all these moves and holds that you know, that Kiana and Dean and Ebony have alluded to. I know certainly our team at event booking was flat out trying to help people with moves and changing cancellation policies and all sorts of different things. And I know talking to my colleagues at Ungerbach, the same thing happened. There was even webinars on how to do that. So it's, you know, it's super important. People rely on technology to do this stuff. So it's super important that the providers not only provide the technology, but back it up with the service to make sure that you get what you need when you need it in a hurry. So, but I do want to just, after Dean's little show and tell with the old book, I do want to tell a quick story about an experience I had with one of those books many years ago, actually selling technology and going to a venue that will remain nameless, but it was about 15 or 16 years ago. And I remember trying to sell this venue on moving to a software platform as opposed to using the old book like Dean just showed. And the person who looked after that book came into the meeting with the book under his arm and was adamant he wasn't going to move from that because he didn't trust technology, et cetera, et cetera. And then one of his colleagues did point out, but what about that time when you put the book on the trash can and it got thrown out and we had to call around and find out who we remembered was booked? Do you remember that? And he was very sheepish about that afterwards, was like, maybe I need to look at technology. So yes, books had their place, that's for sure, but technology has certainly taken over.
Well, that's a great segue into maybe some more specific topics as we talk through sort of the general last 18 months crazy. Somebody take the lead here and talk to us a little bit about even what it means, this idea of dashboard technology, and how do you use it in the world we're talking around scheduling, booking, and inventory. Maybe Steve, if you wouldn't mind, start just talking a little bit about dashboard technology and what it means in the industry, and then we'll ask our other panelists to talk about how it's been used by them.
Sure. So I think dashboards is one of those words that gets thrown around a lot as a bit of a buzzword, you know, from a technology viewpoint. You listen to sales presentations and people talk about dashboards and this and that, but what it really comes down to is being able to provide people making decisions in the venues with information at their fingertips, so they can make decisions on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, on a minute by minute basis, giving them real-time information that's easily digestible. They don't have to run a big lengthy report to find that. They just look at a screen and have information that's relevant to them. So I'll leave it at that. And I know these experts here can talk exactly how that works for them.
Somebody pick up how you've used dashboard technology and what it means to you.
So
I'll go. Oh, go ahead, Ebony.
I'm sorry. So I know in the ticketing world, definitely depending on your ticketing platform, and here and at the Grizzlies, we use Ticketmaster, and we've had to, you know, go from seeing who's in our building, how many are coming in, what times, all those things are important into feeding different other departments on, you know, who they need to have staffed and where and things like that. Also looking in real time, you know, how many people are in your building kind of lets you know when the show needs to go on. I know we set a time specifically 6 o'clock, but you know, most people, they come in, trickle in a little late. So that's one way that we've used it, the technology, as well as parking platforms also have that, and it kind of gives us the real time on when people are actually arriving at our building.
Yeah, terrific. Go ahead, Kiana.
Yeah, you know, in my definitely use a contract and proposal dashboard the most, which shows, you know, where every event is in the booking process, and, you know, how many events are still pending. And I love just seeing it updated in real time, especially this past year with so many rescheduled bookings. You know, the other dashboard I use a lot in my role is a sales pipeline dashboard that analyzes each event space's utilization, and total profit per season, or annually per event. So those are the two dashboards that I primarily use.
Great. That's great insight. Dina?
I would add the same, that I use that being able to evaluate what business is the best business. As we've been moving and jockeying things around, you know, we look, one of our KPIs is gross revenue per square foot, and you start to look at what that business is. It'll tell you immediately kind of what that business is, and you've got 2 or 3 holds on a date. What's the best piece? And you can quickly see which is the best piece and what do you really want to try to get in there on that open date. And we also use the sales piece, obviously, and where it is in the process, and is it proposed, is it contracted, wherever. And as you're moving stuff around, sometimes just having that thumbnail, that quick look, and not have to go through a lot of reports has been very useful to us. The other place where we use a lot, it's not necessarily a dashboard as much as it is just the technology, is being able to let our promoters and planners know what those dates are available through the sending the avails. And the old way of, you know, going through the book and finding the open dates you had and sending them out in a separate email to someone. This does it, you know, automatically. You can pick and choose how you send it out. But sometimes getting that avail in front of a promoter or in front of a meeting planner lets them know, hey, I got to reschedule that date. And it's your way of staying in front. So it's really a marketing tool for us, as well as a good way for us to stay on top of having open dates and managing our yield and managing our usage.
Yeah, so we begin to touch on the next area we really want to go to, and thanks for that tie-in, Dean, and it's really around yield management. Years ago, when I was working for the Pittsburgh Pirates and I was trying to sort something out that I was obviously not making any sense on, as I was talking to my boss, he stopped me, and he was a bit of an aggressive human being, but he took a book and he kind of slammed it on the table and he looked at me, and I was pretty young, and he said, "It's in the numbers, dummy." And you know, while I was taken aback by that, I also learned a lot from it, because the benefit of it being true is that it was. And so when we talk about yield management, and several of our panelists, Kiana and Dean in particular, wrapping that last piece up, alluded to it with some of the things they're using their dashboards for. Most all of us are doing this. If you're not doing it, it's a miss. So everything from how you manage your food and beverage to cleaning per square foot, like, so you can know what your cost per square foot is to clean a space based on the math around the total cost of it versus the square footage. It's pretty simple math. Most of us are doing that. At the end of the year, the whole goal is to try and drive as much net revenue as you can based on how you're managing efficiently your expenses and maximizing your revenue. So in essence, I think that's a pretty simplistic definition of yield management, and feel free, anyone, to enhance or improve that if that's a miss. But with that as a backdrop, I think our attendees would really love to know what the 4 of you think in terms of yield management, some of the things that you're specifically doing to make sure that you're maximizing revenue and minimizing your venue's expenses, as we specifically look at the areas we're focused on today.
I think, yeah, Richard, just to sort of dovetail on that, the concept of yield management, you know, it's been around for a long time. With the airlines have got it down pat. They did it great. Then it moved to the hotel world, where the hotel world started getting into yield management and getting technology to help them to decide what rates they should be charging for what days based on demand. We haven't really got that sophisticated with it yet, in that sense, with the venue world. I know I've talked to a couple of suppliers over the years that do this sort of stuff, And one of the things they noticed as we started analyzing some data from convention centers specifically was that we're not actually great at capturing the turnaway data. So, and that's really, really crucial when you're trying to do yield management. So for example, if there was an event looking at coming in on August the 15th to the 20th, and you already got an event there, 9 times out of 10, the salesperson will say, well, sorry, we're booked. And they won't record that turnaway. And it's really important if you want to do accurate yield management to record that turnaway in the system somehow, so that when you are analyzing your data, you can see you turned away 5 pieces of business. So that date's actually a high value date where you could be recognizing additional revenues. So being able to capture, I guess where I'm trying to go with all that, capture as much data as you can, because that's going to help you make those yield decisions in a better format.
Terrific. Kiana, Ebony, Dean, any of you want to build on that?
He's exactly right, and he said it very well. I don't have a whole lot to add. I will tell you that one of the, I don't know if you've ever seen this on IAVM's site, but this is their reporting framework was done. And, we use a lot of the KPI and the reporting out of this. And again, part of that is you're making those decisions on what business is the right business at the right time. And I see Kelvin Moore is on here. And our friend Brett Mitchell, we all learned a lot about yield management from Brett and the way in which you really try to make that selection, but you can't do that without good data. And technology allows you to make those decisions based on a framework of having the right data in. And it's like every piece of software in the world. If it's junk in, junk out, but you want to make sure that you're putting in the right stuff. And so as we get going again with venue ops, it's been a real solution for us in terms of our ability to again choose the right business at the right time. And we all have booking policies. We all have, especially in the convention center world, what's important. But booking sometimes is about room nights in the convention center world, but it's not always about what is your revenue per square foot and what is your expenses to clean that space, and really knowing what those are. And so that's really a part of the overall booking and scheduling. We've all booked a piece of bad business. We know that we've had a piece of business and you go, God, that thing cost us more money than it made, and it was a lot of work. And so again, technology can sometimes help us avoid some of those pitfalls.
So I want to remind everyone as well that as you have your own questions, as you listen to our panelists, be sure and just put them in the Q&A section. It's right at the bottom of your screen. And so type those in and we'll get those as we wrap up our section here in a little while. I'm going to move us to a new topic here, and one that all 4 of our panelists have lived with and everyone on this call has lived with in the last 18 plus months. And that is, as we have dealt with, hey, look, when we got into this, I think we'd all be lying if we didn't think most of it figured it was going to be a few weeks and we were going to be back. And then we were hanging on to events in late summer, and then, hey, maybe it's going to be fall. And then, gosh, it's probably going to be the first quarter. And here we are moving into July of the following year. And while there are buildings open, there's a lot that are still getting there. So as you think about that process for our 4 panelists, you've all been through all sorts of dynamic change. And I think it would be really helpful for our attendees to hear your perspective, and specifically if there's technology you've used. Some of you have got 4, 5, 6, 7 holes. We already kind of humorously alluded to that. Talk through what it's been like and what you've specifically done, because we want our attendees to have a takeaway here of like, here's something I've learned. Kiana, if you don't mind, I'm going to kick it to you first, and then we'll just go around and maybe ask all 4 of you this.
For sure. For me personally, technology has really just helped me keep track of all those changes per event in one place. I've alluded to this in previous questions. Venue Ops has just been such a great platform to track all the changes the events have been going through as, state, city, and county guidelines have changed in regards to COVID. So, before Venue Ops, we were using, Excel and Google Sheets and other platforms where we just had to keep jumping from one to the other. But Venue Ops has just been so great just to have it all in one place. technology has also, really helped us, increase our inclusion efforts, with providing multiple avenues of communication. And I think we've really learned that there are just so many ways to communicate both verbally and non-verbally to patrons and our staff. So in this time, we've really just had to use technological resources to think creatively to reach out to our community.
Before we go to our other panelists, and I can throw this open to all four of you, but a specific question around the communicative piece. So you have an event booked in your performing arts venue or your arena, your stadium, your convention center, wherever it is, and people are planning on coming. And as you alluded to, Kiana, then the city, state, or local departments say, no, we're going back to lockdown. What have we done? What are some of the tips you would give any of us to most effectively communicate that to our staffs, to our patrons, and to our community in general?
Yeah, for us, a big priority is just making sure our website is updated, making sure that the public knows who exactly we're following. It's definitely, been a struggle. I'm sure everyone can attest to this, that not everyone is aligned. So, making it clear to the public who, what resource you're following and what pieces of that you are going to include in your reopening. CDC guidance is, a little bit different than state and city guidance, but the public, really they just want an answer. So making sure that's clear and direct on your website has been really helpful.
Great, thanks, Kiana. So Ebony, talk a little bit, if you would, about the challenges you face, because you have a world-class NBA team in your venue. You have major concerts and events. You had lots of things on the go. You're in a vibrant, going city, as all of us are, but you and Dean together there. So talk about the challenges you faced in the last 18 months trying to adapt to all of this.
And I will definitely, agree that your internet, your web-based channels, your social media, those avenues that you have, you definitely have to keep updated and stay on top of. As well as, believe it or not, your phone systems are so important. Leaving messages on your phone for those customers or patrons who aren't as internet savvy or social media ready. That's been one of the things for us. So with ticketing, we've pushed a lot of things to mobile. They went mobile. And with that technology, you're expecting everyone to have the smartphone. And that has been kind of the challenge for us, where, as we know, a majority of people went to updated smartphones. Some people do not. So it's still that signage. It's still that word of mouth. It's still that, getting, putting signs up in different things that are keeping people aware, and not forgetting that we have another part of the community that is, maybe not where the majority is. So like we've said, social media, internet, keeping your phones updated. If you have moving boards and things like that, putting those things up and making it aware for all of your patrons.
And Dean, you have with the performing arts a similar venue in terms of scheduled events for the general community, but then you also have targeted conventions. How have you navigated this, and maybe what are some of the specific things you've done utilizing technology communicatively to manage that?
Yeah, all the same things that Kiana and Ebony said. Certainly the website and that our phone system through the renovation has been difficult to stay focused on that. So we're actually moving to kind of a soft phone system using technology to make sure it goes immediately to everyone's cell phone. And so if you don't leave voicemail, you're actually still getting the information right away. But we're pretty strict here in Shelby County, Tennessee, in terms of the virus and the pandemic of what we could do. And we just had our first full non-socially distanced event in the theater last week with a quartet show. And obviously the ticketing is a really big piece of that, of making sure that we're using hands-free technology for the tickets. all the screen, all the things that you do to keep everyone safe. But it's funny how it's like almost rebooting your computer. It's like all of a sudden it's gone. Masks are gone. Everybody's kind of back to normal, and really the last 2 weeks. And it's amazing how quickly we've gone back to really the way we did things. And I'm watching Mississippi State Vanderbilt last night on TV, and I'm watching this baseball game, and there's everybody shoulder to shoulder, and they're yelling and spewing, and they're just having a good time. But we've had it's been an interesting time of trying to move through all of the bookings and keep them moving, and trying to find those events that are socially distanced. And we did a symphony show in the winter that we separated everyone out, and but we moved a lot of things. But I'll tell you, the hardest thing for us, honestly, and I think for the whole industry, was trying to make sure that the experience was still as good as it can be. And part of that is letting them know ahead of time, and pushing out social media, pushing out all the kind of direct mail type of stuff you can do to say, be prepared, this is what you need. We all hate surprises. This industry, I've learned early on in my career, nobody likes surprises when they show up at the venue. So we I think really made sure that this communicating as much as we could with both our planners and the patrons that came, what our processes were, so they could know that. And we used obviously all of the channels of our social media and our website to do so.
I'm going to have a follow-up question in a little while around those that have reopened and challenges you faced, and if you've had any really challenging people that have impacted your staff. And I suspect all of you were challenged with getting staff to come back, so we may go a little off topic towards the end here. But Steve, staying on point, this is such a critically important question, and you have such a breadth of experience, universally. What are some of the insights and thoughts you have on it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting topic, because to sort of elaborate on what Ebony was saying, mobile and social has become the norm now, and that's a blessing and a curse at the same time. In these crazy times where things were changing, like Kiana alluded to, there'd be CDC guidelines changing daily, there'd be county guidelines changing hourly. People go to the social media to find out what's going on, but there's not always the right information out there. There's people, that think they know what they're saying, and they're adding to that. They're putting out, oh yes, this is what I heard. This is the policy now, and then someone else runs with it, and people start reading a thread on social media, and that's why it's critical for the venues to make sure that they're seeing that too, and that their social media people are making sure that they're correcting those things that are maybe not right. To say, actually, here's what's really going on, because people will read what they'll believe what they read, right? We've found that out over the last couple of years. And
it's not always true.
Correct.
But when we get out the right info, absolutely. So great. Let's move on to a different question, and that's there's a lot of software that's become necessary. The nature of the beast, as this has come through, there's a lot of information that we're all gathering. Steve, we'll start with you, and recognizing we're not trying to promote anybody's specific software, but just more in general, what software is available to do, and how it's our friend, and then we'll have our other panelists talk about some of the things they've done. But what have you seen in terms of applications and enhancements to help us deal with? You and I were talking a few weeks back about how we used to have 1, 2, and maybe 3 holes on scheduling, and now you're running into people that are going, yeah, I have a 6 and a 7 hole. And how are we going back and rescheduling the people, and how are we navigating all of this?
Yeah, and yeah, again, without getting into specific software, I think the key here is that it's more about ensuring at your venue that you've got the right software application to suit your needs. If I couldn't imagine in times like this, where if your software only allowed you to have 1 or 2 holds, how you could deal with it, because we all know that that was not the norm. It was going many levels deep. I know in our software, when we built it, we put up to 15 holds in it, which I thought no one would ever use, and here we are finding people asking for more. So And that's probably the key. Just when you're looking at different software applications, make sure that your vendors understand what your needs are and are willing to change and adjust and adapt to suit those. Because I can guarantee when anyone built their software, no one had COVID in mind when that was being built. That's for sure.
Ebony, go ahead.
Yeah, and just to reiterate what Steve was saying, I know we also use event booking Angerbach as well with our booking system, but I think being able to communicate what your building's needs are with your vendors and your allies in this industry is definitely one of the things that is key to making sure you have what you need. And being able to just express, hey, we're looking at this in this time and it's a little different, can you be flexible and maybe build something, or do you have something? Or definitely being a member of IVM and other organizations like Intix ticketing, you have a network of people that you can go to and say, hey, I'm having this problem, or I have this need. Who are you using, or do you run into this? And I think that's one of the ways that, you get what you need for your business particularly.
Great, thank you. Kiana?
Yeah, just to echo what Ebony said, and my team has really utilized IAVM and IAEE just to network and to stay connected with other industry professionals who are going through the same things that, we're all just talking about. With the software program that we use, VenueOps, the holds are amazing. I'm definitely one of those people, Steve, that asked for, can I have 12 more holds to put on the calendar? And really the feature I like the best is just the account feature, where as we're moving money around, as we told, events in 2020, if you, rebook in spring of 2022, we'll move over your rent, we'll move over your equipment, that kind of stuff. The account has really just helped us see where the money is going and keep track of all those moves, as some of them have been very individualized, utilizing yield management. So.
Great. And Dana, I don't know if you have anything you want to add. It looks like you might be landing airplanes there as well.
No, we got a paving, couldn't get in a door, and my ops guy's out today, so I'd be trying to get somebody in a door. No, not really anything to add there. So no.
Well, we don't have a lot of time left, and I'm gonna flip the wheels on everybody here, because all of us are dealing with this, and we'll start with our three actual venue managers, and Steve, save this question for you at the end, and then we'll bring Russ back in. I do want to encourage you, put your questions, we've got a few starting to come in now, but put your questions in the Q&A. These folks are here to answer them. Russ is great at facilitating this as well, and we're all here to learn. But as we think about the last 18 months, we've all really been kicked in the shorts by it, and there's always a silver lining. It's horrible that there's been so much tragedy, and so many people have suffered both physically and emotionally in this, and so in no way do we suggest that that's taken lightly, because it's not. But no matter how challenging things are, there can always be lessons learned and silver linings, and so that's really, this is about hope. So what do we do with this? Like, are we in despair, or do we say, okay, now we go forward and here's what we do? So now, as we look at the last 18 months, what have we learned? What's new? What are we taking away that's going to make us better? And then also, I'd like to ask that, what's your biggest challenge? Like right now, as you think about getting your venue open, regardless, what's your biggest challenge, and how are you addressing it? So Ebony, we'll start with you.
So for us, I do believe that it's definitely hope. I think it's encouraging, of course, that with the vaccinations and coming along, and people still, hesitant, but actually getting them is been very helpful to the community, as well as, if you need that extra precaution of the mask, I will say I keep my mask and I still wear it, that you do that, and we encourage that, and we don't, discourage people for taking those extra precautions if they need them. We are saying, come back to our venues, because we do need you as patrons to come back and to experience things live as well, because it's the support of the community that's going to get us back to where we were, or even better than before. It's just, we're just encouraging people to take those extra precautions. As far as now, what is our biggest challenge is, I would say probably like everyone else, staffing. Because there are people who have decided not to come back, or are waiting or holding out. So we're trying to encourage those people who are ready and willing to come out, have been vaccinated and everything, to come out and continue working with us. So that's, I think, where we are. We're very grateful for the technology that we've had in moving. I know it was a huge change for everyone, especially in the ticketing world, to socially distance and do it within, a day or two of an event, or cancel things. So I just say, like I said, to continue to feel encouraged and to keep moving forward. That's what we're looking to do.
Great, thanks, Ebony. Dino?
I would say the whole technology, the Zoom, the Teams, things that we use now, our drawing program, drawing 6-foot distancing and being able to change that very quickly. There's just been a number of things that we've done. So coming out of this, I think at least our team here in Memphis have really embraced technology as really, and again, I'll tell you, when we lost power or we lost the internet, we were like, okay, well, let's go read a magazine, because you really can't work. And so we found that we really have it's made us, and I think again, the silver lining of the pandemic was we didn't probably embrace it until we had to. And so the ticketless, cashless ticketing, I see Carl Hall's question, about that Russ is going to address. But we've had lots of conversations about what do we do getting away from that. We've moved to a text to pay a parking system. We're getting away from the ARM and the Prox card for our parking garage. And so there's a lot of things that we've come out of this with thinking that we've improved our operation. I think our service is better, and our communication, certainly with our clients and our promoters and our partners, has been much improved with that.
Great. Kiana?
Yeah, I think coming out of this, our mentality has really shifted from, how do we train patrons to do what we want them to do? How do we get them to read the signage that we post and, follow all these guidelines that we're trying to get them to do? But now it's shifted to, how do we train ourselves to serve, patrons? As patrons, comfort levels are variable across the board. Everyone has an individual feeling, opinion about COVID and their safety levels. So, for us, it's all about just being flexible and meeting each patron where they're at, whether they want to, cancel their ticket because they just don't feel safe returning yet, or, possibly, want to try again in the spring. So moving their ticket to a different show. I think also it's, shown us that hybrid events are here to stay. Again, events are trying to serve as many people as possible. And, there's always going to be a group that's ready to come back and ready to mingle and socialize together in a space. And also people who are just more comfortable, in, attending events online and virtually. So, keeping our, live streaming packages that we created during the pandemic, because more events are, going to keep on using them.
It's great. It's great insight. Steve, we'll let you wrap it up, and then we're going to kick it over to Russ for our Q&A.
Sure. I don't have too much to add other than, what Kiana, Dean, and Ebony just said was all spot on in terms of the changes that this has made us think about. And I think that's one of the very positives to come out of it, as well, is that, it's made us all realize that technology is an extremely important part of what we do. and there might have been some of us before that thought, you know, technology is a necessary evil. I think now we're all starting to understand that technology is not only necessary, it's not necessarily evil, but it's very much something that we need to rely on in times when we need to do these mass changes. Imagine going back to Dean's book and trying to move something 15 times, you know, just impossible, right, without technology. So you know, those sort of things, it's a good thing. I think that it's forced us to become kicking and screaming into the 21st century, if nothing else.
Great. Well, thank you. And Russ, we'll kick it over to you to facilitate questions, and please continue to type those in on the Q&A if you have any.
Yeah, thanks, Richard, and a deep appreciation to all of the panelists, and a certain shout out to Dean Dennis for rocking the pyramid in the background. As many of you know, that's part of my history. So delighted to. And by the way, it's 485 steps to walk up to the to the rooftop there.
Hey, Russ, before you get to the question, I have a question. Which arm did you carry that book under when you were there?
Yeah, listen, and many people on this call can probably remember the angst when you lost the book, you know, where you set it down somewhere. Dean, you know, mentioned, you know, or the trash can story, or Steve rather. I can 100% remember losing the book, and then also thinking about, like, when you had to rip out a page and change a page. I felt like it was the difference between the Gutenberg Bible on a printing press and actually having to copy it by hand, right? Because it was a Bible, for lack of a more elegant term. There have been a lot of things that our panelists have touched on that I just want to touch on quickly before I address the questions. Ebony brought up what I call the epidemic within the pandemic, which is staffing, and there's a lot of sort of probably misinformation out there about the things that are relating to the staffing challenges that are they are nationwide, by the way, and not just in public assembly facilities. But so out this morning is a study that really broke down, like, what are the reasons that people aren't actually returning to work. And I thought it was pretty interesting. I'll share it with you for 1 second. 25% are afraid of COVID and really waiting for vaccination rates to climb before going back to work, right? And that's just getting comfortable with the science. And I'll be honest with you, I think everybody has the right to make the decision that's best for them. 20% basically have said that they've got a bit of a financial cushion. That also means that they're probably enjoying a little bit of the quality of their life right now and not really ready to jump with both feet back into the frying pan. And for those of us who stayed in the frying pan the whole time, all I have is a capital E for envy. You know, I just you can't hard to get mad at somebody for that. 20% are staying home because of childcare responsibilities. Not all schools are open, not all open equally. So lots of issues as it relates to childcare. And interestingly enough, the smallest percentage at 12% is really the issue of employment insurance. So I know there's been a lot of stuff out there in the media, and it's a high point that people are focusing on, with a number of states basically sort of eliminating or reducing those employment insurance. But it is interesting that while it gets a lot of attention in the media, it is really the smallest percentage by this Axio report that was again issued this morning. So I think I think we all want to just quickly latch onto the one thing and say, okay, I've decided that that's it, and that's it. I think we're all better served when we let science actually govern versus the emotion of the response, and start to understand all of the different things that are impacting this. Now, that also ties right back into the next point I wanted to make, that has to do with just disruption. We've all discussed about how the pandemic had been this massive disruption for our business, and we've all felt it, and some worse than others, but nobody has escaped it. But if you look at major disruptions throughout our history, disruption always yields change. And based on my opinion, that there's always positive change out of disruption. And we're seeing a number of things that are resulting from that. It's even some of the things that have been discussed in our panel today. So I wouldn't go out of my way to create a pandemic, and I could have easily gone another 100 years without living through one. But I am optimistic about the results in terms of what our business is going to look like. some of you on earlier webinars have heard me say that other than a major renovation or a new building, it's rare that you get an opportunity to take a breath, to look at your organization, look at your structure, look at your people, look at your skill sets. Because all of us in an honest conversation would admit that maybe we weren't doing everything as well as it could be done. We have we rely on sort of the convenience of what was successful in the past and not really having enough time to properly focus on that in the future. So, so it's going to sound strange, and can't apologize for it. It is, it's actually a gift that, in a way, it's a gift that came with a high price. No minimizing that. High price to life and people's lives overall. But it's up to us to actually make a decision about what we do with what's happened. And I think by participation in this webinar, by our panelists and the people who have spent their time here on the call, you're all looking at it in the same way. How do I use this to get better? How do I use the gift in a way that honors the people who suffered from it? So I want to go to Carl Hall's question is, in the same vein as mobile ticketing, how many have also gone to cashless concession sales? What challenges have they experienced, and how did they adapt or adjust to solve those challenges? Now, I'm going to ask the panelists this, but I am going to weigh in here, because I will tell you right now, the highest soapbox I am standing on right now is a tie between the Delta variant and concessions. We drink the Kool-Aid as an industry, and we get to a comfort zone, and we're desperate to not make change. The most material change in the concessions industry, 15 years ago was using a credit card. Despite the fact that science showed that 15% to 25% upcharge with credit card purchases, we still don't have 100% full integration for credit cards in our industry and sort of end to end. And even in major professional sports, there were many franchises who were highly reluctant to make that change. That means that despite the science, despite the evidence, despite the revenue opportunity, we're that resistant to change. Going to cashless in this is one piece of what I hope is a food and beverage revolution. We have been doing food and beverage the same way over and over and over, ad infinitum. Our business is no different than many others. So 20% of our food and beverage items actually drive 80% of our revenue. And when I think about the science that it takes me, I have to move an item 5 times from when I receive it to when I actually hand it to a patron. That other group of items that actually isn't really contributing to my bottom line is getting away of the new emphasis for quick service. So this is, what can we do in the near term? Cashless, that has an application as to what some of our initial fears were for surface or fomite contamination, which is now proven not to be material. Not mad at anybody. When all this came up, it was like, hey, let's use our best effort based on similar diseases and viruses to see what we should do. And it's okay for things to change. They change with data. And Steve's ears just popped up. Data is awesome. We all agree. I'm certainly guilty of making decisions without data based on gut that I'm embarrassed and will admit to each and every one of you how wrong I was. So whenever now we can get data to make decisions, we're going to be that much better off. So cashless actually drives quick service, in my opinion. And it drives a lot of other things in terms of cash handling and costs, and there's a lot of positives to it. So here at SoFi Stadium, we decided to go cashless. And then, despite the science that I got from Mercedes-Benz with regard to how many people were actually using the reverse ATMs, I still thought, in an abundance of caution, new to a marketplace, I'm still going to go to the reverse ATMs. Here's a place where the pandemic has helped me. Based on what we've seen industry-wide, I was going to put 12 reverse ATMs in to make sure that there was, from a guest experience standpoint, like a minimum of service. But now, even in my market, whether it's the Dodgers or LAFC or other people here, I'm only going to put 2 in. Because at the end of the day, Mercedes-Benz was right. Even though, you're okay not to just say, hey, the Atlanta market might not be the LA market. Mercedes-Benz was right. It's okay to have a couple of them, but generally people are not using them. So bingo, I ended up, doing things in an abundance of caution, getting data, making that change, and now we have savings. So I'm a big fan of cashless. I think also in an honest conversation with your concessionaire, if you get someone who gets jammed up, give them the damn hot dog. All right. I mean, we spend millions of dollars and countless hours of time in guest experience, and we're going to go like, nah, I'm not giving you that hot dog because you're trying to beat me. I mean, it's like, come on, we can't pick a side, right? So, I mean, at the end of the day, Richard and I are symbiotic in the concept of do the right thing. Doing the right thing in this case actually can help in that. So, Carl, great question. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of cashless for speed and convenience, whether it's in parking, whether it's in retail, or whether it's in food and beverage. So hopefully that answers the question. Now, anybody else want to weigh in on this?
We're all scared.
Yeah, good. You know, I haven't had a good day until I've yelled at somebody, and here I get to yell at 100 people. So thank you for that. So the next question was from Sarah. And Sarah, I will murder your name, so it's just Sarah this morning. Are there recommendations for small venue booking software? We've done a lot of research, and not many are cost effective for our size. And I think that's actually a great point. And recognizing and appreciating the conglomerate that Steve has manipulated here between marrying the two competing platforms in Ungerbach and event booking into a single mega platform. Steve, in particular, are you aware of, are there some smaller types of platforms that might be of value for some of these smaller operations?
Yeah, thanks for that intro, Russ. Look, definitely. And what I would say though, first and foremost, when you're looking at technology, look at it for what you need it to do. Don't look at it purely from a price tag perspective, because you know and I know that's tough sometimes when you've got budget constraints and so on. But try to sell, you know, to the powers that be. What do you need your technology to do? And look at things and ask your vendors to provide you with things like cost savings, return on investment, increases in revenue that technology can provide to you. Use those things to try to counter that purely approach from a cost. But look, if you're looking at different systems, there's a system out there called Gather or Triple Seat. I think they've merged into one now too, actually, that was designed for, I think it's like a $4,000 or $5,000 a year price tag. It has limitations on what it does, but it suits some of the, I know they're very big in the restaurant and corporate sort of spaces. But you'll find most suppliers will have different ranges of prices for the different capabilities that you need. So, you know, obviously there's Ungerbach and Venue Ops, there's Event Pro, Priava, Ivy, all different offerings for different strokes for different folks. So do your due diligence and do it best.
So Steve, you are to be congratulated for your therapy. For a peddler to actually mention another product is really inspiring, and it shows that you are on this webinar for the right reason.
We had advanced meetings.
The other thing, Sarah, is like, or anybody, reach out to Steve. You know, like he's going to take your call, right?
That's right.
For the rest of the panelists, did anybody have anything in there to add to what Steve brought up, or no? Yep. Okay. Good. So, Sarah, ask for help, and we'll get some to you. And as much trouble as I had with Sarah's last name, oh, geez. Zahir, do you have a nickname? Bob? I mean, something. God, you got to help me out. Where do you see room for the most innovation, disruption of technology in the venue world in the future? You know, I'll go first because I can. I think the future is really going to be in things like venue digital twin. I think that the price is going to come down on that, and it's going to be an expected and necessary process of all major renovations and new facilities that is going to give you ability and insight to manage your facility, and also be able to create the type of documents and meeting planning and a lot of the other things that you're going to need forward facing to your customers. I think the twin technology is we're only at the nascent stage of trying to think about how that's going to contribute to our industry in terms of cost savings in terms of management of work orders and all of those other things, as well as being able to get super accurate and detailed plans for users as they move forward. To the panel, insight in where, where do you think innovation or disruption of technology is going to be, or where would you like it to be? Ebony, where do you think technology is going in ticketing, and how is it going to help you?
I really do think that we're just going to continue this mobile ride for a while until it comes back around where collective tickets are the next best thing. I mean, I think that's how it goes. I think everything goes in a cycle, and but I think mobile ticketing is here to stay.
Okay, Kat.
You mean me, Kiana?
Yeah.
Yeah, just to build off Ebony's response, I think the area for most innovation, it would be the ticket buying experience. And, here at my venue, we did a big API integration in the past 18 months that has allowed us to offer, pre-ordering concessions. And also, as patrons are, looking for their seats to buy, they're able to actually see their seat and the view that you would get if you were actually in that seat before they check out of their carts. So I think as much as we can provide on the front end before they check out of their cart is super helpful and helpful for, both the staff working events and helpful for the patrons, before they actually attend events. So I definitely think the ticket buying experience can, definitely be enhanced a lot.
Okay, Dean.
I'll jump up on your soapbox with you, Russ. I think cashless concessions and the pre-order, the appetize, to throw out a brand name of systems by which you can pre-order, and the cashless system of concessions is going to be, I think, continue to move forward. And we sell more product, and we do it in a more customer-friendly way ahead of time, pre-orders, that sort of thing with food. The other piece that I see, again, is our parking. We've moved to a text-to-pay system, monitoring that through a camera that through license plates, and we know whether you paid or didn't pay. We can decide to give you a nice note that you didn't pay to park, or we're going to do that a different way. But just trying to make it more convenient to get in and out of the garage sooner and quicker and faster. I think that technology is going to be big in the industry in some way, and you're not just going to have somebody there at the gate taking $10 cash or $20 cash. I think you'll see that.
Steve?
Yeah, I see a couple of different areas where technology is going to disrupt, and for the venue world particularly. And look, disruption's driven by demand, right? And we have people coming to the venues wanting an even greater experience. So there's two things I see. What the first one is, I think there's going to be more collaboration between the venues and the people that are either attending the events or renting the space. And what I mean by that collaboration is that there'll be more of this ability for say a meeting planner at a convention center wanting to be able to come in and actually interact online instead of exchanging emails. Email's dead. Email's going away eventually. So people want to interact at their own time at midnight or whatever it might be. They want to come in and start giving you the details of their event and providing you with their insurance documents and their floor planning requirements and so on. And they want to do that collaboration directly with your technology. So that sort of thing is definitely going to change. And the other benefit of that is, as we talked about, we're seeing what did Russ call it, the epidemic within the pandemic, the staff shortage. Having more collaboration with your clients using technology will also cut down the amount of touch points that your team and your team members need to do as well. So you can do it with less staff from that perspective. But the really big one I see going forward that's going to be a big disruptor is artificial intelligence. And I think we're going to see a lot of that happen over the course of this next decade, where and it goes back to the whole data thing. You've got lots and lots of data in your systems. Being able to have machine learning going on, where we talked about yield management, it sort of takes that a step further. Having technology tell you and suggest to you and prompt you with, hey, have you thought about this? And hey, what about this? You're doing this, you're doing these sort of events. you could maximize your savings if you, looking at the number of hours we needed for security staff, for example, having the system prompt push out stuff, well, based on what you've done the last 5 years, here's what we suggest going forward. You know, this sort of stuff, I think that artificial intelligence / machine learning is going to be a big thing that we're going to be seeing coming through in the venue world.
So we're seeing all sorts of interesting insights from our panelists here. And I want to remind you as well, if you missed this or you need some extra notes, you can feel free to call any of us. And the recording of this session will be up on our VSG Advantage Training website later today and there in perpetuity, so you can always refer back to it. I'm going to go to a question from Mark Etner. I'm better at pronouncing names than Russ, apparently. You know, what are the new alternative revenue opportunities that came out from event producers being creative over the last year, such as drive-through light shows, such as Night of Lights, OC in Southern California? So basically, the question is really driven by what are some of the ancillary revenue opportunities that we've seen, and will some of them stay? Dean, you want to start with that one, and then Russ is back here.
Yeah, I don't know. We didn't do, I'm not sure what ancillary opportunities there might be. You know, everybody was searching for any way to make a buck during the pandemic, and we were all trying to figure out ways around a way to which we could socially distance and still grab some dollars. But you know, for us, you know, we're really trying to find ways to, through a cashless system, of adding pre-orders, putting your parking on the ticket, putting your, you know, food and pre-ordering food and that sort of thing, so we don't have the interaction with people. We really tried to do that piece of it. We were scheduled to do some of those kind of, we were going to do a drive-in kind of event in our exhibit hall, and ended up we didn't have to because we're back live. And I will tell you, during our renovation, we were down already, so we couldn't have planned it better to be in a renovation while we were in the middle of a pandemic. So it helped us a lot. But so we didn't have to stress about finding opportunities for revenue during the pandemic as much as maybe some of the other panelists.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Okay.
Ken.
Yeah, Richard, I was just going to say that, you know, we were, you know, a primary presenting organization, but in this time we had to think creatively and become event producers. And we came out with two really awesome series. One is called Low Country Listens, where we featured a lot of local artists in our community, and we sold tickets socially distanced. And really our goal there wasn't to make profit, but really just to break even and stay, you know, just stay present in the community. The second program that we created was called Setting the Stage. And that is a really, really cool educational program that we made, you know, in accordance to South Carolina educational goals, that basically taught, you know, kindergartners through 8th grade, just the basics of stage management. And we were actually able to sell that educational program to other counties in South Carolina and in North Carolina. So again, the goal wasn't really to make, you know, a profit, but really just to serve our community and stay present as much as possible while we were shut down.
And a few other things that I've heard about, we have not necessarily done, but some events or some venues were allowed to do venue streaming of events that they had in their building and get some kind of ancillary revenue from that, as well as, like you said, drive-in or an educational series where they took maybe a group within the community, socially distanced them, and held educational classes within their buildings. So yeah, those were some. There
were some really creative things that went on, because I think a fixed venue operator's attitude about how to do these, it just never really came up before, right? There, you know, back when I was actually in Memphis, I had an idea about using the floor of the pyramid as a drive-in movie screen. You know, we never did it, just it never really made out. But you know, here at SoFi Stadium, we had drive-in movie, we had an outdoor concert. and we were highly engaged in, you know, sort of any kind of conversation that you could have. Mark mentions OC Lights. There were these drive-through experiences. The people who do the Stranger Things TV show for Netflix, they had they created it in downtown LA. They took over a parking garage and created a Stranger Things drive-through experience. So I think the creativity that we saw as an industry is something that we shouldn't lose track of, because it tells us that whether it's our parking lots or our plazas or something else, that there are opportunities for us to engage our audiences and serve our communities in ways beyond just our four walls. And so I actually hope that's something that continues, because I do also think that many of our customers they're not gonna forget easily that being outside is better than being inside. And so I just think we would lose track of that at our own risk in terms of potentially opening up potential revenue opportunities or ways to service sponsors, advertisers, and maybe even open up sort of new revenue marketplaces. On the chat, Tammy asked a question. She said, on the topic of evolving science of surface transmission, outside of high-touch areas and regular sanitizing, are your venues sanitizing each piece of equipment every time, even when there are 72+ hours rest between? Sorry, it's a bit off topic, but curious. And seeing as this is the last question, I'm going to use this as an opportunity not only address yours, but also give you my quick download on my current most concerning areas. So with right now, the science is pretty solid that surface contamination is not a material vector for the virus. And so that's pretty good for everybody. But in this disruption, and we've used that word a lot, I think it's been, I think we've all sort of recognized and realized that we were all guilty of doing business the way we always did it. And if we're going to, again, have an honest conversation with each other, were we doing everything that we could and should have been doing in a cleaning and disinfecting and sanitation? And the answer is no. The other thing is that no matter what, no matter the science now that says that the surface contamination is not a material issue, it doesn't mean that it's not still a material issue in the eyes of our guests and our employees. And remember that our employees are our guests too, in many ways. So I think we would really be doing ourselves a disservice if we didn't learn the lessons that came from this. And I think just like post 9/11, or the way security was, I think post-pandemic hygiene and cleaning is a little bit like that. You know, we went from trying to hide these folks, the Disney model, and keep everybody in the background and don't see them work, to now where there's going to be an expectation of visible and obvious evidence that they're there. And not only just they're there, but that they're actually doing something that's going to be material to the quality of someone's experience. So these are things that I think we need to take on board. I think the biggest failure in housekeeping overall is the ratio of supervision to line staff. My rule for almost everything is when people know somebody's paying attention, they behave differently. You can use it for finance, you can use it for your kids, you can use it for housekeeping or security. So I think we all have to take a lesson from this and make sure that we don't get dissuaded from making sure that we meet the expectations of our guests. And I think the expectations of our guests is they're going to be visible and obvious efforts in this area for the entire time that they're in our care. The last thing I'm going to tell you is that I'm worried about the Delta variant. The Delta variant is, if you look at where this is, the original COVID-19, it's called in the wild, was highly contagious. The B117, or the UK variant, was 50% more contagious than the original wild variant. The Delta variant is 62% more contagious than the UK variant, which makes it 100% more contagious than the original virus. Now, there's good news. There's good news from a vaccination standpoint. If you're vaccinated, there's 88% of people who might come in contact with this would have no symptomatic results. And 92 to 96% of people would not have any issue with regard to hospitalization or catastrophic outcome. It is the populations that are unvaccinated and the regions that are unvaccinated that are going to actually likely have a material impact on the rest of us. The variant itself is doubling in the United States every 2 weeks. It's in all 50 states and is expected to be the dominant variant, let's say by the second week of August. This has a chance to send us backwards, right? Because if you look at it, like in Southern California, we celebrate the fact that in Los Angeles County, 64% of our population is vaccinated, plus a large number of the population has actually had the virus, which is why our rates are so astoundingly low right now. But overall, and when we look at the United States, you know, we're just not there. And I want you all to just be watching this and be thinking about it for your enterprise and your employees and your communities. I have recommended, and we will here move back to masks for all employees indoors beginning the Tuesday the 6th until we see what's happening with the variant overall, whether you're vaccinated or not. I'm going to try to do everything I can to get ahead of what I think, and again, I'm not trying to be we had a great webinar. I'm not trying to bring everybody down, but I have an obligation to share with you my serious concerns about this, and I hope you'll take it seriously as well. And if you need any help with any of this, you reach out to me. Okay. With that, Richard, for you to close.
Yeah, great. Thanks again to our panelists. You were terrific, and to the attendees. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to any of us. And until we see you again, everybody be safe. And like Russ said, we encourage you to start wearing your mask again until we know what's going on. Take good care, everybody. Thank you.